Maybe you want your children to be tall. Maybe you hope they have green eyes. Or maybe you fear having children at all because of the risk of passing on debilitating hereditary diseases. These worries can be abated with a technology designed to create what's been dubbed designer babies. Natural births randomly mix characteristics, but this process would take out much of the guesswork and help ensure your son or daughter has the best chance for success. However, this is just a microcosm for the larger discussion about genetic engineering, and delving into the details quickly uncovers a host of ethical and political concerns. So, are designer babies the next great leap forward, or a step in the wrong direction? Human genetic engineering is the ultimate expression of what Michel Foucault coined biopower, or the managing of births, deaths, reproduction, and illnesses in a population. And looking at it through this lens will help navigate this complex issue. Let's start by looking at the three main draws of genetic engineering. Firstly, a mastery in this area would allow us to all but eliminate hereditary diseases, like Huntington's or amyloidosis, not only saving thousands of lives, but helping make them fuller and healthier all around. Secondly is the fight against ableism. Preventable disabilities carry with them not only intrinsic difficulties, but equally hinder some social and professional ones. Loja et al. Put it as such when referring to those with mobility challenges. The pervasiveness of physical barriers not only constrains social relationships, but also work performance, undermining the professional confidence and the economic capital of disabled people. Finally, on a larger scale, it has been brought forward by noted futurist and Harvard graduate Juan Enrique that in order to explore other solar systems and find habitable planets, genetic engineering on a profound scale will be necessary. This may seem like a distant worry, but the accelerating pace of climate change could mean its extinction or exodus. Now let's take a moment to look at the issue on a fundamental level. What ethical concerns are there with this technology? I'd like to specifically focus on the question of quality of life for genetically engineered children. And with that in mind, I point to the academic conversation between Robert Sparrow and Heidi Mertes. Human gestation is on average 9 months, which means that any significant genetic changes that is beyond the scope of existing characteristics would take decades of breedings. However, what if multiple generations could be simulated in a single pregnancy? This process, called in vitro eugenics, would mean that the children who are born would be the distant relatives of their quote-unquote parents, and this has implications on their development and social lives. Sparrow invokes the minimal welfare principle when addressing this concern in his paper. In short, there is no ethical barrier to research as long as the resulting offspring would not rather be dead. Mertes rebuts by noting that, like most medicine, genetic engineering has the possibility of going wrong and causing more harm than good. The difference is that genetically engineered children would have never had the option to opt out. I'd like to propose a short thought experiment. Assume that gene manipulation has been perfected, streamlined, and the world is ethically ready for its implementation. Now what? Will it be benevolently implemented? Or, more realistically, will it disseminate from its point of discovery, presumably a first world nation, with a large price tag? To bring this back to the discourse on biopower, Foucault famously wrote that the first task of a doctor is political, and this is highlighted when looking at these biopolitical babies, as it would seem. Suddenly, wealthy nations are bearing healthier, stronger, and smarter new generations, leaving the rest of the world behind. Perhaps I'm being pessimistic, and a central agency would make this technology available around the world at an affordable price. In this case, Leighton brings up an important point. Health literacy is not uniform around the world. These discrepancies would mean that the way genetic engineering is viewed, prescribed, and implemented would be vastly different from nation to nation, and considering what is at stake, it hardly seems a wise endeavor. Finally, I'd like to explore the effect of genetic manipulation would have on the gene pool of the human race. Assuming uniform health ideals, undesirable traits would slowly disappear. This initially seems ideal, but to illustrate the danger, let me present the fate of sickle cell anemia on the African continent. In short, sickle cell anemia is a debilitating condition that has the potential to kill the host. However, the potential is much lower than specific strains of malaria common in these areas. Sickle cell anemia changes the shape of some red blood cells, making hosts with at least one allele for this disease resistant to these strains of malaria. The result is that, as you can see here, these two conditions tend to coincide, because in places where it is a genetic advantage to have some alleles for sickle cell anemia, the disease is not bred out. The point of this example is to show that we cannot possibly predict the outcome of genetic manipulation in the best of circumstances, and that allowing your average citizen to affect natural selection in such a meaningful way will have unforeseen consequences. So, what have we learned from all this? Genetic engineering is a tool that has the potential to improve the lives of millions, and may one day be the difference between the life and death of our species. That being said, the wealth of ethical concerns surrounding its research and development are second only to the political and logistical concerns that come with its implementation. Designer babies? I'd strongly advise against it. Transnational research into genetic engineering to prepare for epidemics or space colonization? It'd be unethical not to.